Yeah, so what is it doing when it cries? What are we trying to get it to do? To breathe, Hannah. So it takes its first breath. So there's two things we want to understand. There's the Shabad, and when that baby is born, it connects to born. It connects to breath. And so when we want to understand the game of Simran, the game of our spiritual and our physical life, we can understand it in two parts. There's the game of Shabad, which is where that fourth state is, where that state of Vaheguru's presence is. And then there's the material state within the body, Maya, which is governed by breath. So in Gurbani, some places like in Japji Sahib, it's written Pavan Guru. Pavan Guru, Pani Pita. Because in this body, the Pavan, the born, the air is the Guru. But when we want to go beyond this body, then Shabad is the Guru. Shabad the Guru, Surat Tonnichilla. It will start to make sense as we go through it. So this baby is born and it connects to its five senses. It starts to see, it starts to smell, it starts to taste and hear and feel. And it falls in love with its mother's milk. As Gurbani tells us, it falls in love with its friends, with its cousins, with its toys. And it starts to disconnect from that internal connection of love to Vaheguru. That presence of Vaheguru becomes less and less because now the baby, the child, is looking out. And it's getting that pleasure from the mother's milk, it's getting pleasure, it's given a name. And now instead of knowing that it's Vaheguru, it's now being called whatever, baby, Hanji, whatever the name it's been given. So it starts to identify with this name. Holy, holy, this baby's told, you're Punjabi, you're a Sikh, you're a girl, you're a boy, you're like this, you're like that, you're hyper, you're too quiet, whatever it is. And we start to take on this identity. But as we're taking on all of these thoughts, these belief systems that are coming from outside, what are we forgetting? We're less and less feeling that we're connected to Vaheguruji, that Vaheguruji's presence is there. So what starts to happen is that because the breath is the Guru within the body, that breath becomes unbalanced. So within this body, there's two ends, do sirya. Dono sirya ka aap swami. There's two ends within this game that we're playing within the body. One is at the belly button, at the nabhi, and one is between the eyes, not up here in the forehead, here between the eyes, just in front of the eyes, in fact. But if we want to understand it from a bodily level. And there's three things that connect to those sir. So it's not coincidence that the baby's cord is cut from the belly button. That's when that Shabad stops and we come into born, we come into breath. So in Gurbani, it references it and it's important we understand it. It doesn't go deeply into it. So we just want to understand it. We don't want to spend lots of time thinking about this. It talks about that there's three nariyan. There's three nariyan. Hanji, what's the word for nari? Channels. There's three subtle channels. Like we have our aorta, we have these nerves within the body, but there's subtle channels within the body. And they're not physical necessarily. So if you've ever studied Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, they will talk about these nerves, these channels that are within the body. They're energy channels. So there's the Ida, Pingala, and Sukmana. Sukmana. Hanji. So what happens is that as we start to have these thoughts, these vichar, and we start to think about our family, how we're going to make money, friends that we want. We start to have certain kinds of thoughts. So in Gurbani, Maharaj is telling us there's 3 types of thoughts that we're going to have within the physical body. So Rajagun, so I'll just put that here. Rajagun, Tamgun, Satgun kahiye, e teri sab maya. So this is how we understand our mind. So we all tend to have these Rajaguni thoughts. The Rajaguni thoughts are, how am I going to feed my kids? I need to do X, I need to do Y, I need to do Z. And that's normal, Hanji, because Guru Nanak Dev Ji's told us that we should live in a Gristi Jivan. So we have to earn that money, we have to look after our family, we want to look after our families, all of those things. But what comes alongside those thoughts about looking after, earning wealth, looking after our health, is that when it goes too extreme, we go into fears, we go into chinta, we go into fikr. So how does this relate to the body? So when we're too much in Rajagun, and imagine this as a mirror reflection of the body, then what happens is our breath on the left side becomes stronger. So if everybody can do an experiment now, if you can bring your hand to your nostrils and just check which nostril is the breath stronger, or is it balanced? So I'm not very good at sensing this, but some people, they can notice. Is the breath stronger on the left side or on the right side? You don't have to say, Hanji. And for some people, it might be even. So what happens is when we go too much into chinta, fikr, we go too much into doing things, our to-do list, I need to get this, I need to do that. What happens is the left side of the breath becomes stronger. So the mind becomes unbalanced. So tolan vigar janda manda. Now, when we're doing that, we get into chinta and fikr and all of that, and then something doesn't go our way. What happens is we then go into tamagun. Then we start to have kalesh, we start to have conflict in our family, right? So this person doesn't agree with me, why don't they agree with me? I didn't get what I wanted. Mainu oh cheez mili nahi, fir krodh aa janda. So it starts with that calm, the desires are here in Raju as well. When those desires are not met, if we are following a materialistic path, if we only believe in this world, if we believe that our khushi, our happiness is going to come from the physical world, that je mere bachchiyan da vyah ho gaya, then I'll be happy, je mainu enna paisa mil gaya, then I'll be happy. If we just believe that that's where our happiness is, if I lose weight, exercise, get this job, whatever it is, we have those constant desires, those ichhava, those asa. And when they don't work out for us, that calm, which isn't just sexual desire, it's all of those extra desires that we have, then that calm turns into krodh, it turns into anger, it turns into lobh, greed, it turns into more ahankar. So what happens if our desire gets met? Je oh cheez sanu mil gayi, then we want more. Hor mainu chaida, hor mainu chaida, hor mainu chaida. Then we start to say, that's mine. If we, oh cheez mil gayi, if that thing comes to us and it gets taken away, then we say, mera, it mera hai. I always give the funny story of, I used to say to the bacche, like, it's tera nahi, Vaheguru ji da hai. And the kids really, they take it on, they're like a sponge, you know? And then they started getting older and they wanted to borrow my clothes. They wanted my hoodies. And I'll be like, no, that's my hoodie. And they'll be like, Mom, I thought you said everything's Vaheguru. Sab kich tera. So we start to believe this is ours. But where was that thing before we were born? Hannah? Before we were born, what existed? Who created us? Who puts this breath in our body? आपे करता कर कर वेखे dinda saas giraha hai. Vaheguru Ji is the one who's doing the karta. Ape karta. Kar kar dekhe. And they're watching as they're doing. Dinda saas giraha hai. They're giving us this breath in. They're allowing this breath to come out. But we're stuck in this story of mine, of mera, of I did this, homme, me, I. Then that more comes in. This is mine, this is mine. And then that becomes our sense of identity, our pride, ahankar. That I'm this person who has this job, I have these children, I have this marriage, I have this money. And again, if that goes, I've forgotten the Shabad, das vastu panche pave. Right? So you can ask for 10 things, but if you don't get that one thing, you forget all about what Vaheguruji's already given you. Deda de lende thakapahe juga jugantar khahi khai. Vaheguru's giving and giving, but we have that one desire. That one kamana, that I want that thing, and we don't get it, probably for the good, right? But then what happens? We come back into krodh. So if we're more in the right-hand side, if we're more in these panch jor, if we're doing jealousy as well, we're doing ninda jugli, gossiping, slandering, then we will be more in that fiery side. So this is the cooling side, Rajugun, that's the fiery side. So in the body, that's the right-hand side. So if your breath, and no judgment here, if your breath is stronger on the right-hand side, you will be having more of these vichar. But also the other way around. If you're having more of these vichar, that means your breath will be more unbalanced to this side. So if you feel angry a lot, you feel fiery a lot, you will feel that fire in your body. Like even within Arm household, we talk about garmi, and we talk about vayu or baye. That is about those tat that are imbalanced within the body. And so it does, and I'm looking at Benji here, it does affect, having that balanced diet, whether you're eating, what dosha you are, all of that stuff, it helps a little bit. But what we know is what happens in the mind is actually going to override all of that. So it's not that that stuff doesn't work, it does work. However, we've watched loads of videos, we've worked with lots of people as well, where they can be eating vegan, they can be eating raw diet, they can be having green health shakes. But oran de sarir vich rog, that doesn't go. It doesn't matter how much you eat healthy, because that, most of the time, in my opinion, that rog is not coming just from the sarir. Yes, the elements are imbalanced. But why are they imbalanced? Most of the time, they're imbalanced because of what's going on in the man. And most of the time, something happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the ohi asi sochi jandeya, sochi jandeya, sochi jandeya. And then we're stuck in that tamogun, we're stuck in that cycle of kam, krodh, lobh, mohankar, of ninda, chugli, jhoot. So that's how that imbalance happens. So this is playing out through these nadiyan, one on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side, and that breath has become imbalanced. So what we want to do is make that sultolan, make that balance of the breath. Because what we want to do is access this middle nadi, which is the Sukmana nadi. Because the Sukmana nadi is going to take our consciousness, our awareness, into Chautapad, into Turyapad, Nijgar, Sachkhand. So how does the Simran come into this? When we're saying Vai, Guru, Vai, Guru, what we're doing, what we're trying to do is bring that breath in as we say Vai and exhale as we say Guru, as much as we can. So some people, they go to yoga and they learn pranayama? And they do these things with their breath where you hold your nostril and then you exhale and you do these kinds of breaths. But again, Sangat ji, we need to be aware that if you have an imbalance and now you're doing that, but your man hasn't changed, that's going to have a very limited effect. If you go to have Reiki done, energy healing done, you might feel better. But if your man hasn't changed, that's going to have a limited effect. You can go have chemo done, you can go have supplements, you can have jo marji karo, right? You can have some desi dawai from India. It's going to have a limited effect. It's not that it won't work at all, but je sada man is stuck in Rajo or Tamo especially, that imbalance is going to stay. It's only going to be temporary. So we need to change the mind. Even in Satogun, where we're doing good actions, and I'll come back to the breath, when we come into Satogun, we start to become dharmi, we start to become religious, we start to become good, we start to do seva, main inni seva kiti hai, inni gurbani mein pari hai, main 5 path kardi hai, I do this many parts in a day. But even that is within Maya. Why? Changaya, we should do that, but it's still within Maya. Why? Because asi apni lor to karde hain. We're saying, if I do this many parts, mere bacche da vyah ho jauga. If we do this many parts, maybe me and my husband will get on. Maybe I'll get a job. Maybe something happens. And then again, if the desire is not met, what happens? Fir ਅਸੀਂ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ. Why is Vaheguru doing this to me? मैं कोई किसी ਨੂੰ बुरा नहीं किया. I've never done anything bad to anybody. I've always been a good person. But we've completely missed the point because we're still in this cycle of sukh and dukh. And that is playing out through our man, through our vichar. So we do need to climb this ladder. Sant ka marg, dharam ki pauri, ko vadapagi paye. So we want to start to walk towards that because that is going to bring some balance in our lives. When we start to focus on something bigger than ourselves, we start to acknowledge that Vaheguru exists. We start to do those actions. Changi galya. But if we're only doing it for our own feather, rather than to have that ultimate purpose of milap with Vaheguruji, then we're just going to keep falling. We're going to rise, we're going to fall, we're going to go in dukh, we're going to go in sukh. So when we want to, part of this is balancing that breath. So when we're just saying Vai, we pull the nabhi in. So again, if you've ever done any kind of breath work, they will say pull the tummy out when you breathe in, and then push the tummy in when you breathe out. When we're doing Simran, we don't do that. Because when we pull the breath down into the body, jadon assi apne sareer vich swas lyonde ha, we're pulling ourselves into the body. That's when the tummy goes out. But when we want to do Simran, we want to take our surti upwards. So jadon assi Vai bolana, when we say Vai, we pull the nabhi in. So from this sir, from this point, we pull the nabhi in, and what happens is the breath gets pushed up. With the breath getting pushed up, the surti, the awareness gets pushed up as well. And then when we exhale into Gagan, we exhale into Akash, into the sky, into the air, right? So what happens then is we're focusing on inhale, Vai, Guru. It doesn't matter if you can't quite say Vai at the same time and take in the in-breath. It will happen naturally at some point. And then you say Guru, you exhale. When we're doing that, what we're also doing, and if I'm moving too fast, if anything doesn't make any sense, please say. When we're pulling the belly button in, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਾਭੀ ਅੰਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਵਾਏ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅੰਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਸ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦਾ ਚੋਟ ਵੱਜਦਾ ਹੈ. So I can't translate that into English. So it's like I'm looking at you two to help me translate. What's the English translation of that? So when we're saying Vai, we're pulling it in, then that sound and that pulling action is hitting that point in the nabhi where there's a door, there's a sir, there's an opening. Does that make sense? And what that does is it activates the shabad, the anhad shabad that's inside of us. Hanji? So we say Vai, that Shabad gets activated, the breath goes up, the Surti goes up, we say Guru, and we're going upwards. Because we want to go beyond where this game is being played. So the game is being played in the Bhav Sagar, the ocean of the world, the ocean of Dragun. So that is happening within the body. We're talking about the physical body here, or the subtle body, between the Nabhi, between the door opening here. We have the Narya within the body. And so when we're doing that Simran, what we want to do is go beyond that. We want to go beyond this stage. Does that make sense? So that Shabad, that Anhad Shabad is within all of us. That is the Avaj of Vaiguruji. Tera Mukh Sohava Jio Saj Tonabani. O jeri tonniya sade vich vajdiya Anhad Shabadya. That is the Avaj of Vaiguru. That is what is going to take us across that ocean, across this Bhav Sagar, across Maya, to Vaiguruji themselves. So when we're activating that, when we do the Simran loud, Uchi Uchi asi karde hain, Vai, Guru, Vai, Guru, we're pulling the belly button in, we're releasing it, we will start to hear that Shabad. Fir oh Shabad sanu sunan lag penda hai. Does that make sense so far? So what we're going to do is we're going to do that bit and then we're going to move on. So ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਨਾ. ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਚੀ ਉੱਚੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਕਰਨਾ? ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਸੁੱਤਾ ਪਿਆ. Our mind is asleep. That's why we do it loud. Our mind is asleep in these three gun, in our vichar. We're either in Rajagun, मैं की करना. We're in Tamogun, ਉਹਨੇ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਹਨੇ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਕੀਤਾ. Or even we're in Satagun. I was saying to Benji, I couldn't sleep last night. I was trying to do Simran, and then my mind just went into this whole katha. Like it just came, but it was still Satagun. It wasn't this place beyond thought. It was just Satagun. So what we want to do is we want to go beyond our vichar. Vichar mare, tare tare, ult jun na ave. How do we go beyond our thoughts? What is it, 60 to 70,000 thoughts we're having a day. 60 to 70,000 vichar ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੇ ਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਉਹ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ ਕਰਨਾ ਉਹ ਕਰਨਾ ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਚਿਰ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ as long as our mind is in thoughts ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਹਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦਿਸਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ because our mind is either stuck in thoughts or outward. So we say why Guru ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਨਾ ਹੈ. As we're saying Vaiguru, what else we're going to do? We're going to pull in the Nabhi and we're going to let go. So inhale if you can. If you can't, don't worry. Just pull in the Nabhi. Exhale Guru. We're going to chant loud because Maharaj kande Simar 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 Guru Apana Soya Man Jagaye. The mind is asleep in vichar. Asi apne man nu jagona hai. So let's start with that. Sit comfortably. Akkha band karniya. So we close off the 9 doors, the senses to the external world. And then all that we're left with is our own vichar. Now the panch door that we saw within Tamogun, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣੇ ਆ. The panch chor are going to create thoughts in our mind. Oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, I need to do that. Oh, I don't understand what's happening. But ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ. We're going to bring our attention back to the shabad. Now hopefully you've got enough to focus on. You're going to be focusing on that nabhi coming in as you say Vai. You're going to be focusing on the nabhi going out as you say Guru. As you get used to that, then you'll just be listening to the sound. Saravani suniye, listening with your ears. Rasana gaiye, chanting with your tongue. Hirde tyaye soye, remembering that we're doing the Simran to reconnect with Vaiguruji. So let's do this first stage of Simran. Vai Guru, Vai Guru, Vai Guru, Vai Guru, Why, 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 Guru। ਹੁਣ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਬੰਦ ਰੱਖਣੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਣਾ। Look at your mind. And just notice, have your vichar lessened? Have your thoughts become less? Is your mind starting to settle? Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Gurmukh Pyareo, this is just the first stage of Simran. Asi uchi uchi karna. Why? Because we want to awaken our mind. Vicharan to ਰਹਿਤ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ. So we can let go of our thoughts. We can bring our attention into the Guru Mantar. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਮੰਤਰ ਹੈ ਜਪ ਹਉਮੈ ਖੋਈ. ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹਉਮੈ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨਾ ਹੈ. We want to kill that sense of self-identity, the whole, the me, the I, the mine. And we do that by focusing on the word, on the sound, on Vaheguru. So remember, when we were in the Mata di Garab, when we were in the mother's womb, we were connected to Vaheguru through that Shabad, that internal Shabad. So as we start to chant Vaheguru, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਮੰਤਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ। At the beginning, we're bringing our attention from our thoughts and the external world to the sound of that voice, to the sound of that mantra. So we're bringing our attention closer. But that's just practice, that's just abhyas, so that when our mind settles, we will be able to practice then listening to the internal Shabad. So Maharaj kende pariye mat papa ke sang oho topੈ ਨਾਵੈ ਕੇ ਰੰਗ। ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ, ਪਾਪਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ, when our mind is stuck in those separation from Vaheguru, is stuck in dukh through our thoughts, pariye mat papa ke sang oh topੈ navੈ ke rang. We wash it with that naam, by chanting that naam. We're coming into the present moment. Swasan da on da sutolan ban janda, we get that balance of the breath as well. And as that breath gets balanced, the mind also gets balanced. And it's only when that breath and that mind is balanced can we then start to hear Shabad and go beyond that. So pehla asi uchi japna. We're going to chant loudly. Karke jinna chir sade vichar aunde a, asi Vaheguru mukh de naal bolde a, we're chanting with our mouth, par sada man idhar udhar firda vicharan de vich, onu mor ke leke auna. That's the first stage, is to practice bringing the mind back again and again from the thoughts back to the Guru Mantra. The thought comes back to the Guru Mantra. Pyar de naal. We can do it with pyar. We might be chanting loud, kut kut man kasvatti lai. We might be beating the mind by chanting the Guru Mantra, but we bring it back with pyar again and again. If we start saying, Mainu inne vichar kyo aunde a, mera man nahi tekda, we're just going to get stuck in another vichar. So we don't worry about how many vichar we've had. All we're focusing on is bringing the mind back again and again. Jinni vari ਅਸੀਂ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰੂੰਗੇ, ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਮੋੜ ਕੇ ਲਿਆਉਂਗੇ, ਸਾਡਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਬਣੂਗਾ। ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੋਟੀ ਸਿੱਖਦੇ ਸੀ, ਗੱਡੀ ਸਿੱਖਦੇ ਸੀ, ਇੱਕਦਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਏ। ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਇਆ। It's the same with the mind. Just like we had to practice making roti, we had to practice driving a car, it took time to build that attention, that skill. In the same way, to sit in dhyan, it's a difficult thing, but when you practice it, it becomes easier. So ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਚੀ ਜਪਣਾ, ਫਿਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਨ ਟਿਕ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਫਿਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਹਿਜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਪਣਾ. We start to chant more slowly, more quietly. Again, as we're chanting quietly, slowly, the breath starts to slow down. There's more of a balance. The mind starts to settle. And then Tiji stage in this first part of the Simran, Hanji, the third stage is then chant antargat, to chant internally. So again, let's spend a few minutes. We're going to chant loud, out loud. We're going to chant slow once the mind is settled. Fir asi andar japna. When we say antargat, man de naal japna, man de naal sunna. So pehli palla asi uchi japiye. So आओ everybody ਅੱਖਾਂ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ, close your eyes. ਸਰੀਰ ਨੂੰ ਐਨੂੰ ਢਿੱਲਾ ਛੱਡਣਾ, relax your body completely. ਵਾਏ ਬੋਲਿਆ, ਨਾਭੀ ਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ ਕਰਨਾ, ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਚੋਟ ਮਾਰਨੀ ਹੈ. We're not doing breath of fire here or anything, no yoga business here. Just very slightly bringing the navel, the belly button as you say Vai, and as you say Guru, exhale. Once you've got that under control, then start to focus on the sound of your voice, really listening as you say Vai, as there's a space, as you say Guru. So aao, karo kirpa, ਅੱਖਾਂ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ. Vai Guru, 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 Vai Manu jago. Why Guru, 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 why Wah Guru, 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 ਥੱਕਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ Wah Guru, 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 Wah Guru. Listen to your voice. ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ ਵਾਹ ਗੁਰੂ 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 ਵਾਹ ਜਪਣਾ, chanting with your breath. ਅੰਦਰ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਸ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਵਾਹੇ, ਬਾਹਰ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਸ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਗੁਰੂ. Inhaling ਵਾਹੇ, exhaling ਗੁਰੂ. ਸਾਰਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਰੱਖਣਾ. Focus on the breath, focus on the Guru Mantra. शरीर को रिलैक्स करना. And holi holi apne swas nu thoda ja rokna. So just start to expand that gap where you hold the breath in between. Antargat. So chanting with your mind, listening with your mind. Man de naal japana, man de naal sunna. महसूस करना, श्वास अंदर ਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਮਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਹੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ. श्वास ਬਾਹਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂਦਾ, महसूस ਕਰਨਾ ਗੁਰੂ. Feeling the breath come in, why? Exhale, Guru. ਹੁਣ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਾਭੀ ਤੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ. So bring your attention to the navel. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖਣਾ, you can place your hand at that point. ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਪਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਧਿਆਨ ਦਾ ਆਸਨ ਲਾਉਣਾ. We're going to sit in dhyan, in awareness, focusing on that nabi, that one point. that ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੈ. We're listening for that shabad, that internal shabad. ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ ਅੰਤਰਗਤ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਸਵਾਸਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ. You start to get thoughts, you can start to do internal simran. And then holi holi bring your attention back to the nabi. So let's do some more simran in Saj and then practice this again. Guru ਅੰਤਰਗਤ, chanting internally. ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਨਾਭੀ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ. Bring your attention to the navel. ਹੁਣ ਜਪਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਆ, ਸੁਣੀਏ. ਸਾਰਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਰੱਖਣਾ. ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਫੁਰਨਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੰਤਰਗਤ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੂੰਹ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਖੋਲ ਕੇ, you can slightly open your mouth if you're still getting thoughts. ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲਣਾ, ਸਵਾਸਾਂ ਦਾ ਸੰਤੁਲਨ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ, ਫਿਰ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਨਹਦ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਸਦਾ ਹੈ, ਮਾਲਿਕ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਊਗਾ. So as we learn to maintain our mind, create that balance in our breath, then with the grace of Vaheguru, we will start to hear that internal shabad. So ਅਸੀਂ ਅਭਿਆਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਮਨ ਦਸਾਂ ਦਿਸ਼ਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਰਦਾ ਫਿਰਦਾ ਹੈ. The mind is all over the place in different directions. ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਨ, ਇੱਕ ਚਿੱਤ ਧਿਆਏ. We're bringing that mind into that single pointed focus, single pointed awareness. ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿੰਦੇ ਬਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੀਂਦ ਆ ਗਈ, if you start to fall asleep as you're doing the simran or sitting in dhyan, ਉਹ ਭਲਾ ਆ, that's really good. ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਘਟ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਨੀਂਦ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ. ਦੂਜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਘਰ, ਨਿਜ ਘਰ, ਨਿਜ ਮਹਿਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ, then the body will go to sleep when the mind goes into its true home. ਸੋ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸੌਂ ਗਏ, ਪਰ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁੱਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁੰਨ ਮੰਡਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਸੀ, ਅਸੀਂ 3 ਗੁਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੀ। We were in these 3 states of mind. ਪਰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਚੌਥੇ ਪਦ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ। ਚੌਥਾ ਪਦ ਕੋਈ ਫਿਜ਼ੀਕਲ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ, ਪਰ ਸਾਡਾ ਸੱਚਾ ਘਰ ਆ। ਇਟਸ ਆਰ ਟਰੂ ਹੋਮ ਫॉर ਆਰ ਮਨ, ਦਾ ਮਨ ਬੱਚਾ। ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਸੱਚਾ ਮਕਸਦ ਆ, ਆਰ ਟਰੂ ਪਰਪਸ is ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਮਿਲਣ ਕੀ ਇਹ ਤੇਰੀ ਬਰੀਆ, is to meet ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ, is to experience ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਤੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਭਈ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਮਨੁੱਖ ਦੇ ਹੁਰੀਆ, ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਮਿਲਣ ਕੀ ਇਹ ਤੇਰੀ ਬਰੀਆ, ਅਵਰ ਕਾਜ ਤੇਰੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਾਮ, ਮਿਲ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਭਜ ਕੇਵਲ ਨਾਮ। So Maharaj Ji tells us that our true purpose is to meet Vaheguru, our true source. And how we do that is come into the Sadh Sangat as we have done today, and to meditate on that Naam. To make this man so nirmal, so pure, that it washes away all of those belief systems, all of those thoughts that have created that parda, that veil that has made us feel separate from Vaheguru Ji. And ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਪਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਧਿਆਨ ਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, the mind comes back to its true nature. It's always been there. ਗੁਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਸੰਗ ਸਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਾਲੇ। ਗੁਰੂ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਦਾ ਹੀ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਆ, ਪਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦੇ, ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਮਨ ਵਿਚਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ, ਦੁਨਿਆਵੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ। Because this mind is stuck in its thoughts, it's stuck in the world, in materialism, it doesn't recognize its true source. ਤੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, through that technique given to us in Gurbani, we do that Simran, then the mind quietens. The vichar die, vichar mare, tare tare, ult jun na aave. And then that jyot becomes pargat. Gur sakhi jyot pargat hoye. Through following Vaheguru Ji's method, their hukam, eko naam hukam hai, Nanak Satguru diya bujaye jiyo. Through following that hukam of naam, that jyot, that light becomes manifest. ਫਿਰ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਬੀ ਗੁਣ ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। Those divine qualities become manifest within us. Sad, deep-seated peace, sabr, patience, santokh, contentment, nimrata, humility, bliss, anand. And ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨ ਲੱਗ ਪਏ, that's the true Simran. When we start to hear that internal Shabad, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਡਾ ਰਸਤਾ ਬਣਦਾ ਆ ਮਾਲਿਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਮਿਲਾਪ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਅਨਹਦ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੁਣਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੌਣ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਗਾ? ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਬੇਅੰਤ ਕਿਰਪਾ। Maharaj Ji has put so much grace on all of us that we have no right to say it can't happen for me. So ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਦਮ ਕਰਨਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਜਨਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਵਣ, ਮਿਲਾਪ ਹੋਵਣ, Jeevan safal hoye, that we might see you, we might hear you, we might feel you, that our life is complete. So our Baki Jiri Man di Kahaniya will continue next week as we go deeper. But now we'll finish off with a few more minutes of Simran. So remembering the Jugti, the technique, Gaviya, Vaiguru de Gun Gonaya, ਪੂਰੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸੱਚਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਇਕਾਗਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ। When we really love someone, we speak with so much presence. ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਆ। Because if our mind wanders off, it means that we love those things more than Paramatma. So the more we practice putting our attention on Vaheguru, the closer we will feel, the closer we will become. Gaviya, suniya, asi apni awaaj nu sunna, listening to the sound of our voice. Gaviya, suniya, man rakhiye pao. And we keep that love for Vaheguruji in our heart and mind. So I'll, again, closing your eyes, relaxing your body, paying full attention with love to the Guru Mantra, to the Shabad. Karu Kirpa. Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. ਬਾਹਰ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰੂ, ਹੁਣ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਨਾਭੀ ਤੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਉਣਾ। Bring your attention to the navel. ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਪਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੈ। Just listening. ਸੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਨੌ ਦਰ ਠਾਕੇ ਤਾਵਤ ਰਹਾ, ਦਸਵੇਂ ਨਿਜ ਕਰ ਵਾਸਾ ਪਾਏ। ਉੱਥੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਵਜੈ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤੀ, ਗੁਰਮਤੀ ਨਾਮ ਸੁਹਾਵਨੇ। ਸੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ 9 ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਦੇ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ ਟਿਕਾ ਕੇ ਉਹ 10ਵਾਂ ਦੁਆਰ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮਾਲਿਕ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ। So as we close those 9 doors of the body, the 10th gate, the 10th door opens, and with Vaheguruji's grace we start to hear the Anhad Shabad. ਉਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਦਾ ਸਹਾਰਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਦਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਸਫਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਣੇ ਬੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਕਰੀਏ, ਦੇਹੋ ਸਜਨ ਅਸੀਸਰੀਆਂ ਜੋ ਹੋਵੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਿਉਨੇ। May we be in union with you, Vaheguru Ji. So ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਬੇਨਤੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ। Please forgive us for any mistakes. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੌਲੀ ਹੌਲੀ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਣੀਆਂ।